Think for a moment back to the last time you ordered something online. It could have been anything, perhaps a practical necessity, something truly needed, or maybe just a whisper of a desire, something you wanted. You clicked buy now, and for that fleeting instant, there was a quiet little thrill, wasn't there? A sense of reward, a tiny triumph, as if you'd truly accomplished something, done your part. You checked the tracking page once, then again, perhaps a few times a day, a small ritual of anticipation unfolding. And then the package arrived, that familiar, almost ceremonial unwrapping, like opening a small promise, carefully sealed. But here's the strange part. 10 minutes later, that feeling, that fleeting warmth, it was gone, vanished. No lingering excitement, no profound change, just back to normal. The quiet hum of everyday life resuming. If you have ever felt that hollow echo, that sudden emptiness after the momentary rush, know this, you are profoundly not alone. Today, shopping is rarely just a simple transaction. No, it is a meticulously designed, emotional experience. The very act of buying has been sculpted by unseen hands into something that feels personal, something that mimics genuine progress, even meaning. It feels like a small win, doesn't it? A fleeting sense of control, a gesture of self-care. But that feeling, that fragile, beautiful feeling, is short-lived for a very deliberate reason. We are no longer simply buying things. Oh no. We are buying what those things represent. Not raw functionality, not the utilitarian truth of an object, but identity, a curated lifestyle, a story we are desperately trying to tell ourselves. This is who I am, or at least this is who I am becoming. But that story, that carefully constructed narrative, is curated, not truly created, and it rarely, if ever, matches the raw, unedited reality we actually live in. So, why does that feeling fade so fast? Why does the glow of a new purchase extinguish so quickly? Because what we are being sold, my friends, is not built to last. It is engineered with chilling precision to feel good just long enough to make us come back for more. That moment of intense pleasure when we click buy now, it is a dopamine hit. Quick, shallow, and profoundly fleeting. It gives just enough satisfaction, just enough to keep us perpetually hooked, but never, never enough to ever feel truly complete. This is the loop, the invisible, inescapable loop. You buy something, hoping it will finally scratch that persistent internal itch. And when it doesn't, when the promised fulfillment remains just out of reach, you assume the problem is the thing itself. Or perhaps even worse, you assume the problem is you, not the insidious system that convinced you to want it in the first place. Modern advertising, my friends, has evolved merely selling products. Oh, how naive that would be. It now sells lack. It whispers to the deepest corners of your being, telling you are falling behind, that your wardrobe is somehow outdated, that your lifestyle is bland, that your car, your home, even your precious weekend could all be infinitely better if only you had this one more thing. And just like that, the invisible finish line gets moved yet again. You are no longer chasing satisfaction. No, you are chasing the ever-receding illusion of being caught up. But the finish line, it never truly comes. And somewhere along this relentless chase, we stopped asking what we truly value, what truly nourishes our souls. Instead, we began performing a carefully curated version of ourselves, a version built out of upgrades, memberships, and those relentless monthly payments. That, my dear friends, is the great deception. The insidious lie whispered into our collective consciousness that buying more, that accumulating more will finally make us feel like we are enough. But meaning, true, profound meaning, it does not come in a box. And the person, the authentic, magnificent person you truly want to be, they are not waiting in the next purchase. No, they are waiting patiently behind the noise, beyond the endless clamor of the marketplace. If these whispers of truth resonate deep within you, if they stir a longing for clarity, then I urge you to subscribe to this channel. Follow along as we peel back the layers of illusion together. Explore the fascinating truths that lie beneath this great deception. There is so much more to uncover, so much more to understand. At the very core of modern consumerism lies something far more powerful than flashy ads or clever slogans. It is behavior design, a science honed over decades to shape our very actions. And one of its earliest and most influential architects was a psychologist named B.F. Skinner. Skinner discovered a profound truth. If you truly want to shape behavior, the most effective method is not persuasion, nor is it punishment. No, It is reward, especially when that reward comes immediately after the action. Give someone a small treat right after they press a button, and you have the beginnings of a habit. Do it again, and the behavior sticks. Over time, the person doesn't even realize they are being conditioned, their autonomy subtly eroded by a seemingly harmless system. That, my friends, is the invisible framework behind much of our modern economy. We have become unwitting subjects in an invisible lab, responding to cues and rewards we barely notice. Every buy now button, every sale countdown, every fleeting dopamine rush, it is all part of a carefully crafted loop designed with one singular purpose: to keep you coming back. The loop continues. You feel that familiar sense of lack, that low grade hum of inadequacy. And then you see something, a promise, a solution that guarantees to fill the gap. You buy it. A rush, a flood of dopamine fills your brain, and you feel momentarily better. But it is only for a moment. And then, with an almost predictable and chilling precision, the high fades. And you're back to where you started. Only now you have a little more stuff and the same hollow feeling. So you scroll, you browse, you chase that feeling again and again. Because modern marketing, it no longer just sells a product, it sells a story, a very simple, very old story of inadequacy. The message is subtle but relentless. It whispers to the deepest parts of you, saying, "You're not quite there yet. You could be better. You'd be more lovable, more impressive, more respected if only you had this." It is never about the thing itself. It is about the feeling it temporarily gives you, and the feeling it tells you you are missing. This cycle, this unending spiral, it has nothing to do with your willpower. Nothing at all. It is not that you are impulsive or broken. The game was rigged from the start. The system, it does not want you to feel complete. If you did, you'd stop feeding it, and that is not profitable. Instead, it needs you restless. It needs you slightly anxious. It needs you to believe that the next thing, just one more upgrade, one more item, one more hit, will finally do the trick. But it never does. That feeling of not enough, it is not a personal flaw. It is a planned feature, a feature that turns your psychology into pure profit, a feature that teaches you to measure your worth by your next purchase rather than your present self. You were never supposed to feel done, because the moment you do, the system stops working. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being defined by who we are, and we started being measured by what we have. This shift, it was subtle at first. A new watch, a better phone, a car that says, "I've made it." But over time, identity and ownership became fused, not in our hearts, but in how the world reflects us back to ourselves. The great deception is woven into the very fabric of our history. We see it in the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The serpent didn't sell them an apple, it sold them lack. It whispered, "You are incomplete. God has hidden knowledge from you." And Eve saw the fruit not for what it was, but for what it represented: wisdom, godhood, and an identity she felt she was missing. The apple was just the delivery mechanism. The sin was in the belief of her own inadequacy. We find similar echoes in the teachings of the Buddha. He taught that suffering comes from attachment, from craving. The modern marketplace is a master of creating cravings. It tells us we are suffering from a lack of a better home, a better wardrobe, a better life, and it promises us that the attachment to these things will bring peace. But it doesn't. It only perpetuates the cycle of craving and suffering. The very things we acquire become chains that tie us to the wheel of endless desire. And in the Quran, we are warned about the deceptive nature of this world. The pursuit of fleeting pleasures and possessions is described as a distraction from our true purpose. The temporary glitter of worldly things blinds us to what truly matters. We are promised paradise, a state of complete contentment and peace, but we are lured away by the immediate, the tangible, the things that can be bought and sold. It's a profound story of trading our eternal worth for a momentary thrill. We have become actors in our own lives. We are playing roles we didn't audition for. We are living scenes we didn't write, smiling for an audience we can't even see, hoping the applause will make the emptiness feel worth it. But it never does, because when your identity is built on things that can be bought, it becomes fragile. Every trend, every new release, every algorithm update threatens to make you feel irrelevant. You are only as good as your last purchase, as your last post, as your last external validation. And slowly, without even realizing it, we trade our authenticity for approval, our values for aesthetics, our presence for performance. We start asking, how do I look? Instead of, how do I feel? We ask, do they like me? Instead of, do I like myself? That is the true cost of the self, not just money, but meaning. And in the chase to become someone, we lose sight of the person we already were. If you have ever felt this performance, this constant need to curate your life, if you've ever felt exhausted by the show and longed for something real, then please share your story with us. Leave a comment below if these words resonate with your soul. And if this journey feels right, then subscribe and come back for the next chapter. The truth is waiting. It is waiting for all of us. Picture this. Someone works 60 hours a week, the commute, the meetings, the late night emails, and somewhere in the margins of their week, they spend another 10 hours browsing online stores, clicking, comparing, wish listing, and another 5 hours, maybe more, watching content that feels like entertainment but functions as marketing. That's 75 hours. 75 hours of buying, of wanting. And do you know how many hours they spend just sitting quietly alone with their thoughts? 0. We were not always like this. Once the point of work was to support life, not to consume our lives. Earning money used to mean building stability, security, or a future. But now, for many, it simply means earning more to spend more. Spend to feel good, spend to feel less empty, spend to avoid thinking about the fact that deep down we are not truly living. Consumption has crept into every corner of our days. It is no longer limited to shopping malls or sales weekends. It happens in your feed, in your inbox, in your so-called free time. You sit down to relax, and within seconds you are browsing, scrolling, clicking, not because you need anything, but because you have been trained to associate rest with reward and reward with spending. We don't walk to clear our minds. We walk through stores. We don't spend the afternoon with ourselves. We spend it online. Leisure has been replaced by lifestyle curation. Silence has been replaced by scrolling. Even rest has a price tag now. And here is the strangest part. Many of us do not even realize it is happening. We say we're just unwinding, just checking a few things. But it is no coincidence that our quiet moments are the most aggressively targeted by consumer culture. That is when we are vulnerable, bored, lonely, tired. The perfect time to suggest that maybe a new item will make things better. But it never really does. Because the truth is, we have forgotten how to simply exist without purchasing, without upgrading, without packaging our lives into something that looks productive or worthy of sharing. We have forgotten what it is like to sit with stillness, with boredom, with ourselves. And maybe that is the most dangerous part. Because when consumption becomes the default setting, life itself becomes fragmented. Moments are not experienced, they are monetized. Presence is replaced by pursuit. And slowly, the idea of doing nothing starts to feel wasteful, even wrong. But doing nothing is not a waste. It is where reflection happens. Creativity, clarity. It is how we remember who we are outside the noise, outside the algorithms, outside the endless cycle of work, earn, spend, repeat. Until we reclaim those moments, those unbranded, unmonetized moments, we will keep mistaking consumption for living. And we will keep buying, not because we want to, but because we have forgotten how not to. Not all happiness is created equal. The great psychologist Martin Seligman made a simple but powerful distinction. Pleasure and meaning are not the same. Pleasure is short-term. It is sensory. It feels good in the moment, but it fades. Meaning, on the other hand, is deeper. It gives our lives a sense of direction, connection, and purpose. You can feel pleasure and still feel empty. But when you live with meaning, even the hard moments carry weight. Modern consumerism knows this difference, and it bets on the fact that you do not. That is why everything we buy is designed to offer pleasure, but never meaning. A rush of dopamine, a spark of excitement, but nothing that lasts. Because lasting fulfillment, it does not generate repeat purchases. Temporary highs do. We are trying to buy our way into a state of peace, into belonging, into worthiness. But what we get is just stimulation, not satisfaction. The result is that post-purchase hollow moment, when you realize the thrill is gone and nothing inside you has truly changed. That emptiness, it is not a glitch. It is a signal. It is your deeper self trying to speak underneath the noise. It is asking for something more than another dopamine hit. It is asking for meaning. But instead of listening, we often panic. We scroll. We spend. We numb ourselves again. Not because we are weak, but because the system trained us to soothe discomfort with consumption. And so we end up trying to fill an internal absence with external objects. But the two do not match. You cannot solve a spiritual need with material solutions. You cannot fix loneliness with luxury. You cannot heal disconnection with another delivery. That is the real trap. We think we are making choices, but often we are just reacting to discomfort, to pressure, to curated illusions of other people's perfect lives. And the more we chase pleasure without meaning, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. Because true fulfillment, it doesn't spike and crash. It doesn't need a receipt. It comes quietly through purpose, through presence, through relationships, and moments that cannot be monetized. But what happens when you stop? When you put the phone down, close the tab, resist the scroll, and just sit with yourself? That moment feels strange at first, like something is missing, like you are forgetting to be busy. But if you stay long enough, something begins to rise to the surface. Not boredom, not lack, but a version of yourself you haven't heard from in a while. Let me tell you a story. A man once tried a challenge, 30 days with no online shopping, just to test his willpower. Day 3, he almost gave in. Day 5, he started journaling out of sheer restlessness. But by week 2, he realized something. It wasn't the stuff he missed, it was the distraction, the noise, the little dopamine hits that gave him the illusion of motion. And when that faded, something else took its place. Clarity. He read more, slept deeper, called his mother, not because he had to, but because he actually wanted to. He didn't save a fortune, but he found something better, the space to feel like himself again. That is what they cannot sell you. Not peace, not stillness. Not the feeling of being whole without needing something new. They can sell you noise, upgrades, a curated life, but not presence, not agency, not the power to choose silence over stimulus. And that is why they fight so hard for your attention, because your attention is the gateway to your freedom. Consumption isn't the enemy. Buying something you love, something useful, that is not the problem, but unconscious consumption. That is the kind that fills every quiet moment. The kind that numbs instead of nourishes, the kind that whispers, buy this, before you have even asked, do I need anything at all? The system thrives when you do not pause. But the moment you do, the moment you interrupt the loop, something changes. Each time you stop and ask, is this for me or for the mask I think I have to wear? You reclaim a little piece of yourself, a little sovereignty, a little space to breathe. And that space, that is what they cannot package, cannot market, cannot deliver in 2 days. So the next time the urge hits, pause, 10 seconds. Ask, will this make me more of who I am or just someone easier to sell to? That question won't change the world overnight, but it might change you. And the more of us who wake up, the more fragile this system becomes. Because the one thing it cannot survive is a person who remembers how to live without buying.